Okay, so my next step is powder, and I use two different powders, which might seem strange, but I usually use one for the purpose of mattifying and setting my foundation. And then the next powder you can kind of go with or without, but it's powder for additional coverage. So something like this here, the Smashbox Photo Set Pressed Powder. This one's in Fair. Um, I use this to set my foundation. Not really necessarily my foundation because this sets really well, but my concealer under the eyes, that sort of thing. Um, so I'll do that. And then kind of pull that out. And then just set my concealer. And then I put just in the T-zone there. Make sure. Okay. So my second powder is the Smashbox Halo Powder in Light. So the neat thing about this is it's actually, if you've never used it before, it's a compact and a loose powder in one. So you open up the lid and it actually has this little dial in it, and you turn it and loose powder comes off of it. So it almost grinds you loose powder every time. It mills the powder again. So it's a very, very fine loose powder. So it blends really beautifully. So that goes over everything. I tend to swirl it around a little bit. It's really great for travel. Most loose powders don't make a good purse powder. It has the mirror in it and comes with a little tiny kabuki brush when you buy it. You can get that nice loose powder finish without getting it all over your purse. So it's not a particularly high coverage foundation, but I do like the finish it gives. It's really luminous. It's not like a regular pressed powder would be. When I do have those really bad breakouts, I tend to use a different line called Cover FX, and they have some really high coverage powders. But just for the normal day, I like to use this a lot. Okay, so next up is contour. What I like to use for that, this is my favorite product for a long time now, and I haven't been able to find it in stores. You seem to only be able to get it on the website, is the Smashbox Contour Palette. So what it is inside you have your highlight, your bronzer, and your contour. It even has this little sticker here that shows you where all the different where your contour goes and where your highlight goes down the nose there. I've had this palette forever and I haven't even touched through, and I probably use it every day. I use very, very little because you don't need a lot, so I just kind of tap my brush into it. You can see it. And so I start with the bronzer. Now I don't really necessarily use it as my only bronzer because it's a really matte color and I like a little shimmer in my bronzer. But I do use it as a step in my contouring. Okay, and then I kind of pinch the brush like this, makes it a little thinner, and just really gently go down the sides of my nose. Okay, so next I take the dark color, which is the contour, and I just kind of dab right at the top because I don't like too much. Now everyone does the fish face. They suck in like that. I just tend to clench my jaw. I feel like the fish face gives you a little bit, people tend to go too far with it. They bring it right down into their lips. Whereas when you clench your jaw, it actually shows you where your cheekbone kind of runs like that, which is much more attractive than doing this with your blush. I find that just makes you look like your cheeks are sallow. So I clench my jaw, and you can even feel it right there. And again, to accentuate the cheekbones up here, when you clench, you'll see again, right in there. And you can just kind of blend that onto the forehead a little bit. So this is the other bronzer I use here. It's called Fusion Soft Lights in Dusk. This is a Smashbox product as well. It has a little bit of shimmer to it. I love my bronzer. When you live in Canada, you fake it till you make it. And I just kind of gently blend it over everything. So next I'll take my blush, which is Smashbox Blush Rush in Radiance. Now everyone looks at this color and runs away, but honestly, don't be afraid to try bright colors. Especially with a blush, everything is good in moderation. You can probably see, I don't know if you can, might be too close, but you can actually still see on my palette there is still the little press lines from when the powder is compressed, I guess. That is how little I use of this. I've had this for a couple months now, and I literally only just tap my brush into it really gently. This blush looks beautiful on anyone with a tan or an olive complexion, especially over top of a bronzer. You get the most wicked blush color. So there, I don't look like a clown. So I like to blend it everywhere, just the excess. And lastly, for the face, I have my highlighter. Now I do use often the highlighter in this palette too, just to blend everything out. In fact, I'll put some of that on right now. Now this stuff in this palette here is basically compressed halo powder. So halo powder was the foundation I used here. So I find that when I put this on, it's just like kind of dusting over with my powder again. So it just blends everything out nicely. Some highlighters can make it look really stark and white. So yeah, so this is the highlighter that I use most days, which is Soft Lights in Tint. I don't think they make this one anymore, but they still make its counterpart Shimmer. Now, Shimmer is a little bit more cool toned. Tint has a little bit of gold in it, which I like. So I actually take my liquid foundation brush because I find that some people can overdo it on highlighter really easily. So I like to control where it goes a little more. So I just kind of pat it on so it doesn't go everywhere. Anywhere else you want to highlight. So when that's all done, take my big fluffy powder brush, just wipe away any excess. And there you have it. So that's the final foundation look there.